And it looks like we are live. I'm so excited. Hey everyone, how are you? I hope everyone's having a great day. And if not, I hope our time together will make it even better. Don't mind me, I'm just stalling until I get to the script. So, welcome to Keeping the Beat, an engaging web series hosted live by TNMEA in partnership with CMEA's Foundation. Tune in weeknights, Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday at 7 p.m. Central to learn from and interact with professionals, music professionals from around the globe, representing every facet of world music. Today is Monday, July 6th. My name is Jasmine Fripp. I am the passionate Black music educator. In tonight's session, we are going to discuss creating an all lives matter classroom, diversifying your curriculum, and creating solidarity within the choral classroom. So I encourage you to interact by replying to this live stream, this live video, with your questions and comments, which I will respond to throughout. Well, actually, I'm going to respond at the end because I got to keep focus. With the assistance of Alexis, I'll get to all of your questions right after my presentation. Two disclaimers. While this is being streamed live, it will remain on the Keeping the Beat Facebook page for future reference. So as such, your comments will remain a part of this archive. So watch what you say. Also, language in this episode may not be suitable for all audiences. Parental discretion is advised. And I lied, there's one other slight thing I want to say. Throughout this presentation, I'm not going to code switch. I'm going to be my authentic self. And in doing so, I hope that you're able to get past that and we can enjoy each other and you can catch some gems. So let's get this party started. Boop, 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 boop. Share screen. That part. I chose that part. Okay. And y'all can see my screen. And now we are presenting. All right, creating an all lives matter classroom, diversifying your curriculum and creating solidarity in the choral classroom. So I am very much an educator, a choral educator. I currently teach within Nashville, Tennessee. I will be heading back to high school this year through KIPP Nashville. So as any good educator would do, they would have their objectives up on the board. So educators will be able to understand the importance of having a diverse set of music within their program, teaching its history and helping students correctly perform various styles of music with respect to cultures, regardless of the individual's racial background. Educators will be able to understand and recognize musical works and phrases that are synonymous to the phrase, "Your Black life doesn't matter." Educators will be able to understand the definition and how to create true solidarity within the music classroom. So keep in mind throughout this, as you can see, I am Black. So 9 times out of 10, I'm going to be talking about Black lives because these are the lives that are on fire right now. Black music is under fire, Black lives are under fire. So if you are a person of color, please do not take offense. You could easily put a lot of the things that I say and implement your culture, and you could say the same thing. But tonight I'm going to be focusing on Black lives, and I will also talk about how to the best of my abilities, how to incorporate everybody's music. So just another quick disclaimer. So tonight, we're going to break this down into 3 different steps, 3 simple ways to create an all lives, a true all lives matter classroom. So first up, step number 1, diversify your curriculum. And I know a lot of you are like, well, how? Well, baby, that's why I'm here. I got you, okay? So in the process of diversifying your classroom and your curriculum and your repertoire, as you would say, understand the following when it comes to Black music. Black music is more than Negro spirituals. Insert all the hand claps there. And I put that there because a lot of times when white people talk about Black music within the choral classroom, there's so many questions about Negro spirituals, and y'all get so fixated on the Negro spiritual. And I'm like, baby, I don't know if you know this, but we do more than that. What kind of Black music is you talk about? Here's a list of genres birthed from or influenced by Black people. There's a whole slew of them, courtesy of your local Google. Black art songs, blues, jazz, country, rock and roll, ragtime, Broadway, neo soul, hip hop, EDM, doo-wop, hymnals, gospel, rhythm and blues, reggae, funk, soul, cumbia, calypso, and more, including, oh, I'm about to ruffle some feathers and shake some rooms on this one, including, Western art music. Insert hand claps here. So yes, Black people have influenced Western art music, or what we bulk together and we call classical music, but we're musicians, we know better, okay? So here's a resource. In his 2006 book, Listening to Artifacts, Music, Culture in Ancient Israel and Palestine by Theodore Burr, suggests that culture or classical music ultimately has its roots in North Africa, in the art music of ancient Egypt, as well as other ancient cultures such as Greece. However, there seems at first glance very little evidence of African influence in classical music at first glance, but if you really, really pay attention to it, you can clearly see that Black people have influenced Western art music. So you see this in the pyramids and how you see that came from Black people, people of color in Egypt, and you see the harp and the other instruments. So how do you have this and then you get here? Explain that to me. And there's so many other pictures that I could put up here, and so many other resources that are out there that explain this, but we're not going to linger on that all day. But I brought that up to say, affirm our Black babies and our influence on this Western art music, because I'm gonna keep it 150. I'm gonna keep it real with y'all, because we family now. We here. So a lot of these Black kids don't be wanting to join some of y'all's choirs because they say, y'all only do white people music. Tell them, teach them, even the kids within your history, like, or not your history, tell the kids within your classroom, hey, y'all had your hands in this too. There are several different Black classical composers, alive and dead. Tell them that how we influenced Western art music. It's okay. It's not gonna hurt nobody. So up next, here's an example of diverse concert music, that example of a diverse program. And I'm pulling from music that I've done over the past several years. So this past winter concert, I work at KIPP Academy Nashville, and I work with my high school choir as well, who is also part of KIPP, and that's the high school that I'm going to. So my high schoolers, they sung Vuma, which is an African welcoming song, transcribed by Bryce Kojo, and then they sung a Negro spiritual, Hush Somebody's Calling My Name. Then they turned around and sung Salmo 150, which is in Latin, but it's written by a Brazilian composer. Then they turned around and did White Winter Hymnal, which is performed by Pentatonics. They weren't the original ones to do it, and the name escapes me right now. But it was performed by Pentatonics, and we did their version. So we talked about their influence on the a cappella world. Don't Stop Believing, Don't Stop Believing. And then you have Emmanuel by Norman Hutchins, who's a gospel artist. That's a diverse program right there. And you get the best of all of these worlds. You're able to teach sight reading and everything from those songs. I work with my 5th and 6th grade babies as well. We did Antiphonal Noel by Greg Gilpin, my apologies. How Far I'll Go by Lin-Manuel Miranda, who's killing it right now, especially because Hamilton, which I have not had the chance to watch yet, is on Disney Plus. And Truth Hurts by Lizzo. Now, no, don't even think about it. We didn't sit there and sing word for word like what she sung. I rewrote it to where it was conducive to kids and it was basically showing school spirit. I need to post that video one day because they actually did a pretty good job. But my 5th graders are amazing. And keep in mind, my 5th and 6th grade classes is a tad bit different. It's not a select group of students. Everybody in the 5th and 6th grade participates. Everybody in 5th and 6th grade has to sing. So everybody's participating in winter concert, everyone participates in spring concert, and we go to choral festival too. So there's sight reading going on. Okay, 6th grade, That's Christmas to Me by Pentatonics, arranged by Audrey Snyder. You're welcome. See, what happened was we had that song on there, but it wasn't ready. But it with a little more preparation and more time, because COVID-19, we could have performed it in spring concert. And then we did Spirit by Beyonce, where we throughout the school year, like at the beginning of the school year, I actually sat down and I taught them world percussion. And I even brought in guests to work with them on world percussion because I'm a vocalist, I'm not a world percussionist. So I had to bring in some experts. So they learned an arrangement of Spirit for percussion instruments. You had the choir, and I brought in a choreographer to work with them on African dancing. And these are Black and Hispanic kids. They had a blast performing it. So choral festival, here's what we ended up doing. I only took my 5th and 6th grade classes. So Star Canon, we talked about Pachelbel canons and the relation between that and where it came from and everything. And then we did Funga Alafia, which comes from Africa. In 6th grade, we went straight cultural. We did Tongo, which is a Polynesian work song. And we also did Cantar. So you can program a variety of different styles of music from different cultures. You can do it, and you can still teach sight reading. Trust me, I have like one of the most interesting schedules. I see my 5th and 6th graders Monday through Thursday, every day, Monday through Thursday, and I only get 30 minutes with them, with each class. So I have 3 5th grade classes, 3 6th grade classes. I only get to see them 30 minutes every single day. So 2 hours a week. And some schools may have it better, some schools may have it worse, but you know what? This is what we brought home during Choral Festival. My 5th grade babies, they got an excellent in performance and a superior in sight reading. My 6th grade class got excellent in both sight reading and performance. And I didn't tell you this, but under the direction of Marvis Moore, there is an advanced performance choir at KIPP. And he's like this gem within Nashville. Shout out to you, Marvis. And he built that program from the ground, and the support and love we get at that school is like remarkable. He has an advanced choir that meets after school on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And they sight read. You think my program was diverse? They were singing French, they were singing spirituals, they had gospel songs, they had African songs, they had songs in Spanish. Like Marvis be on it, and his kids bought not 1, but 2 superior trophies home. So it can be done. It can be done. So ways from my personal experience to promote diverse music within the choral classroom, whether it's Black music, Hispanic music. I'm gonna keep it real with y'all, since once again, we family. Like, I know we get stuck in the old ways and we really want to teach choral music, but these kids want to sing some of the songs that they like. And we can still get the job done and teach them that choral tone and teach them sight reading and teach them all. Like it's very possible to have them have the best of both worlds, where they do some of your music, some of their music, some cultural music, and everybody's happy and they're still learning how to read music. So let's dive into some of the ways that I've done it in the past. Fundraisers. Fundraisers is a great way to allow students to sing the music that they like. So this past year, we did singograms. It was the first time school had ever saw something like this. So you could purchase a singogram where you have a group of students like sing to your significant other or sing to your crush. And we had carnations as well. And that gave the kids a chance to sing music that they like. Other fundraiser ideas that I've done, I used to teach in Orangeburg, South Carolina. I had a predominantly Black choir. I only had one white student during my time there. And those were some churchy kids. Those kids were churchy and I loved it. But they were into things like Sunday's Best. It's basically your American Idol for gospel singers. And we did a Sunday's Best competition. And not only was that a way for them to sing music that they like, sing a different style of music, it was a way to recruit because we allowed middle school students to sing right along. We had a middle school division and we had a high school division. So talent shows, showcases, that's the way to do it. Speaking of showcases, if I'm correct, Tiny Desk, look and listen. If you have not done or seen Tiny Desk on NPR, go on YouTube and you will go down a rabbit hole of like just greatness. Like some of your favorite art, my favorite artists like Erykah Badu, Saba, Chance the Rapper, Taylor Swift did one, Alicia Keys recently put out one, I believe, her, Daniel Caesar. They have some rappers that you wouldn't expect, like Mac Miller, rest in peace to a great one. His Tiny Desk was just amazing. It is so many different artists that you can do, but I put my kids on to the Tiny Desk showcase and I said, hey, let's do one. They were like, let's go. And I told Zachary Himmelho, who was my fellow colleague, he was like, yeah, I'm all for it. So we got the kids together and we set up the library to look just like the Tiny Desk series within our own library. And it was amazing. They sung songs that they love. The girl up at the top, she sung I Don't Want to Be You Anymore by Billie Eilish. I didn't know who Billie Eilish was until she pointed it out. I was like, okay. But now I'm like a Billie Eilish stan. She also sung Corinne Bailey Rae. Girl at the Bottom, she sung Alicia Keys. She also sung her and Daniel Caesar songs. So it's you get the best of both worlds. You're being exposed to new music. They're getting to sing music that they like. It's a fundraiser once again, because you see at the bottom, $5 to get in. So you got to think outside the box a little. Now, special recitals. The reason why I started doing the recital piece was because solo and ensemble and Nats back in Carolina was around the same time. And I wanted to give my kids a way to like get the jitters out before they actually went and got on stage. Or went to get adjudicated. So I was like, let's do a recital. So I asked for permission to set up at a church. I got some college students from Clapham University to come work with my students, and they worked on Italian art songs. They worked on spirituals. They worked on contemporary Christian music. There was one girl who was, I can't play piano to save my life. I'm that teacher. But this girl, she was classically trained on the piano. Black girl. Oh my goodness. Like you could hear a pin drop after she finished performing her piece. And like after that, everyone just stood up and like gave her a standing ovation. It was so beautiful. But get your kids dressed up, have a recital for them. This is especially great if you're wanting to expose kids to various styles of music within solo repertoire. That's a great way to do it. For my kids specifically, like preparing them for college, and you see, they're all Black except for little Emily. I love her. It's predominantly Black choir. They needed to be exposed to this, especially if they're talking about auditioning for music programs in college. So that's the way to get it done. Themed concerts. So the way I typically have my spring concert set up is that the first half we basically performed like 2 songs based off of what we did at festival, and then the other 2 songs, or like maybe 2 more songs that we just add on or something like that. But the rest of the spring concert is theirs. Look, they've prepared for winter concert for you. They've slaved over you having them learn music for choral festival. Like, give them the second half of the spring concert. It is okay. They are not taking the praxis exam tomorrow. Let them be great. So the second half, my first year of teaching, we did a night of musical theater. The first half was repertoire that we worked on that spring in preparation for choral festival. And then the second half, we did straight up musical theater. I can't act. I'm not the best dancer. One of my former students, Julian, I love you. I hope you're watching. And he loved to choreograph dances. And he was good, and the students respected him. So he came in and worked with my babies, choreographed pieces, so did Allegra. And both of them are still dancing to this day. Julian went to California to study dancing. Affirm your baby's gifts. I had the theater teacher next door. She came and worked with my kids on acting and stage presence. And they learned various songs from different musicals: Ragtime, Porgy and Bess, Phantom of the Opera, Lion King, Les Mis, and Hairspray. Turn off the radio. This this was so unique because someone, I want to say it was the band teacher, they told me, why don't you program your spring concert backwards next time? And I was like, backwards? And I thought about the thing, I'm like, oh, it's like turning off the radio. So like, you basically, I started from like the popular songs that they like or stuff that they would hear on the radio, and I worked my way back into choral music. And that was, they loved it. We even had a period where they had jazz music, and little girl Emily, her voice was just amazing. She sung "It Don't Mean a Thing If It Ain't Got That." And she had this big, gorgeous, oh man, it was amazing. That was like one of the one performances I wish I had a recording of. But think about theme concerts like that. College performances and visits. So down at the bottom, you see my alma mater. My kids went to Winthrop University just to see them performing various styles of music and to get them to used to the idea of college. You can do it. Same thing with my kids up here. That was them working with Dr. Harrison from Arkansas Tech University. Amazing guy. And they got to perform for them, and they got to sit. The bottom picture is them in rehearsal, and the top picture, he worked with them before their performance, they performed, and then Arkansas Tech University, that's another hidden gem of a choir. They performed for the audience, and it was amazing. I've also taken my kids to Clark Atlanta University. I've taken my kids on a college tour to Johnson C. Smith University. So I give them the best of both worlds. I make sure that they go see collegiate programs within PWIs, predominantly white institutions, and HBCUs, historically Black colleges and universities. We also have a very great working relationship with Tennessee State University, thanks to Patrick Daly and Dr. Susan Kelly. So I make sure my kids are exposed to various types of music, and not just various types, but quality choral performances, so that they say, okay, this is what I want to do. This is what I need to do to get there. Bring in special guests, bring them in. Zachary Himmelho on the left-hand side, he is responsible for helping my babies out with percussion. And he does an amazing job. He's great at what he does. Here you see the second runner-up for Sunday's Best. I want to say it was within the past year, but he was a second runner-up for Sunday's Best, and he came through. He sung a gospel song, and my kids were floored. So just like exposing them to different guests and having them work with the kids as well. Don't be afraid of that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with bringing in people to work with your kids. It doesn't say that like you don't know what you're doing. That's not how it comes off to them. If anything, it's like just an opportunity for them to get exposure to more music and to working with different people because they need to learn how to respect and work with everybody. Participate in festivals outside school performances. So I think this was really groundbreaking for the kids that I was working with here because it was the HC Burleigh Festival. They got to see a slew of Black music, and it was so good to see them with that representation, um, basically Black excellence, just like coming around them and saying, you can do this too, and you can do it well. HG Burleigh Spiritual Festival, you saw gospel songs, you saw modern day R&B contemporary songs. And I think this was the one thing that I absolutely love. Dante Webb, when he was over Southwind's choir, he's about to go to Florida State to study and get his doctorate. But he brought his Southwind choir there, and my kids got to see those Black kids from Memphis like hard down sing some good old choral works and spirituals, and like they put some of these colleges to shame, I'm not gonna lie, but it was good for my babies to see that, to see like we can do that too and we can excel at it. And it's good, even if you're at a predominantly white school, it's good for them to see a variety of different students succeeding and excellent and being excellent. Take them out of school, have them participate in some of these festivals. Another incident where I took them out of school, we were invited to participate in a mass choir that premiered for the third time ever. It's first time in Nashville, third time ever, Hannibal Lukombe's Crucifixion Resurrection. And this is the first year that I had this program. So I needed to expose them to as much as I possibly could. And Crucifixion Resurrection is actually a jazz mass full of jazz music, jazz instruments, Black opera singers. It was just so beautiful. And they, the caliber of music in which they got to experience, it was overwhelming. A lot of my kids ended up in tears. This is an experience that they'll never forget. And it's just to see and be a part of something of that caliber was breathtaking. So take your kids outside of your classroom. Watch professional and cultural performances. So same kids, first year, I needed to expose them. They performed at Dollywood, and then they went and they went to watch the soul of Motown because they hadn't really been like exposed to professional performances on a stage. So after the soul of Motown, and this is kind of off tangent, after the soul of Motown, they went in the lobby, met with all the cast members. It was like, thank you so much. This was so much fun. And like, y'all are amazing. I want to be able to do that, blah, blah, blah. And we come from choir. And they was like, oh yeah, I see your shirt. And basically, long story short, they ended up doing an impromptu performance for the audience out in the lobby. And they were asked to come back and open up for the same people who just performed on stage. That was life-changing. So take your kids outside and like have them watch Motown shows, watch musicals. I've heard of there being places of worship where they host Indian classical recitals. As soon as I figure out where they are within Nashville, we're going. Because my kids need to experience all of that. I want them to have all of the exposure. Genre-specific groups. Have them within your high school, middle school program. If you want to have a chamber group that sings nothing but magicals, cool. I wanted to be in my chamber group back in the high school. They were off the chain. And you have your gospel groups, you have your a cappella groups, and that's what I have here. In my experience, I love me some pentatonics and take six. So we did a cappella music from that specific style. And we had the bottom kids where they look like they posing for a magazine shoot or whatever. That's where that picture came from. And then I had a student ran gospel group as well. And the student ran gospel group and the and C'est La Vida a cappella group, they opened for the Clark sisters. So have those genre specific groups so that you can cater to those needs who really want to expand and really dive into various genres of music and music from different cultures. So, are you concerned about sound and appropriation? Let's talk about it. There's no need to worry, y'all. As long as you're giving credit where it's due and whatnot, and we'll talk about this, like you're okay. Stop overthinking it. I'm coming from a school of thought, three schools of thought, and I call this crew the AAA batteries, AAA battery pack. And when I say AAA, I mean Anton, Ames, and Andre. So Dr. Anton Armstrong, I was I was speaking with somebody on Facebook, and he was like, I went to an all-state choir rehearsal with Dr. Anton Armstrong, and the kids were really timid and didn't want to sing them. And I'm pretty sure it was like a concert gospel song, and they didn't know like how to sing, or because it's, let's face it, this black man, it's probably a bunch of white kids in front of him, and it's like, we don't want to discipline or disappoint him. And he stopped the music and looked at them and was like, baby, sound your best self. Sing with your best voice. Y'all be overthinking it. Just sing with your best voice. That's all there is to it. Don't overthink it. It's not like y'all are going to, especially if you're in a predominantly white choir or you're in a choir with choral tone. It's going to take some time for you to get that vocal flexibility. But if you're teaching it and the kids are sounding their best self with the right technique, go for it. Go for it. Beyonce, she's the Queen of America. She wrote and performed a country song, Daddy's Lessons, and it was so good. And the song ended up being covered by Dixie Chicks when they went on tour, and she was asked to perform it at the CMAs. But did she go on stage and try to sound like Dixie Chicks or sound like any other country singer? No. No, she didn't. She sounded like her best self. What she did do was have those country nuances that you would hear, little glottos and whatnot. And she would add that to say, hey, here's the styling. And then the lyrics, that's flat out a country song. But she went and she sounded like Beyonce. She sounded her best self. So make sure you're singing with your best voice. Dr. Jeffrey Ames, I studied with him at Belmont University, and whenever he would program music, he would remind us that every piece should sound different. Every piece has their own tone. Every piece is going to have a different set of articulations. There's going to be a difference in pronunciation. So when you go to sing your Negro spirituals, y'all, do the doggone articulations. I'm not going to get too deep into the history of it, but just y'all just do the doggone articulations. As a matter of fact, I'm going to get there. I'm going to go into the history. So Negroes, because that's what they were called back then, Negro slaves, and I learned this from Dr. Brandon Boyd from University of Missouri. When they had toothaches, they couldn't go to a dentist. They had to pop them suckers out. So when you go from when you ain't got no teeth, it's automatically duh instead of the. Like, let's just do the articulations because that's how they sung it. I don't, and it's a Negro spiritual, but just do the doggone articulations, do the pronunciations. Like, it's supposed to sound different from your Renaissance music. Be authentic to the sound, which brings me to my next point. Dr. Andre Thomas, he says, in his philosophy is, it is not enough to simply know the music. One must know the culture of the folk music, as well as the people of it, the history of its people. But most importantly, the music must be sung with respect to the culture. And he says this in Way Over in Beulah Land. Teach your babies the history behind these songs. Teach them where it comes from. Appropriation is you not giving credit where credit is due. If you do the work, if you teach them the history behind it, if you're trying to sing it in its authentic sound, but with your best voice, y'all, it's okay. It is okay. So all lives can't matter until Black lives do. This brings me to my second point, my apologies, within trying to navigate and diversify your curriculum and bringing solidarity. So all lives can't matter until Black lives do. I say that because you have to be mindful of what you say, what you do, that can basically shout Black lives don't matter, or a person of color's life doesn't matter. So be mindful of the productions or music that may scream Black lives don't matter. A couple of y'all are probably confused right now. Don't know what on earth I'm talking about. What I'm saying is, one, stay away from minstrel songs. I don't like, I try not to be big on, don't do this, don't do that. But when I stay away from minstrel songs, don't do it. And be mindful of the message that you may send by performing specific musical productions. So let's get into it. Let's start with productions first, work our way back. So here are the 4 be mindfuls that I have for you. One, if it subjects a certain group of students within your school, specifically Black students or students of colors, to only playing derogative roles, specifically and especially if they're the only ones, be mindful. So, Book of Mormon, not a fan, because it sheds Black people in such a bad light. And it's like, white people just laughing at it. Why? No. Two men going over to Uganda and just doing the absolute, no, it's racist. Stop. I said I don't typically, but that one just, unless y'all want to like rewrite a whole lot, just leave that where it's at. And then here's my experience with Big River. So I went to a predominantly white school, a school of the arts. And within that school of the arts, they would do productions every other year. This particular year, they did Big River. And I auditioned for it, but when I got the callback sheets or the final sheets with the results, all I saw was white people playing specific roles, and then every Black person that I know, the only roles that they could get were slaves. That turned me off. And I was like, I'm not staying after school to practice being a slave. It's not happening, not under my watch. And people will argue that specific musicals will have good morals to the story. And in this one, I feel like one of the themes is, and it's up for debate, but I feel like one of the themes is like you utilizing your white privilege to help Black people, which I think is cool. But there are other musicals out there. And keep in mind, y'all, when I'm talking about these musicals right now, I'm talking about performing in their raw form without altering it. We'll get to that later. But I feel like there are other musicals out there that you can get morals or themes across without having to subject specific kids to playing a slave or playing a gangster or whatnot. So just be mindful of that. I'm not telling you what to do, but be mindful. And here's something that I feel like could replace Big River, in all honesty, Hairspray. The theme within it is pretty much the same, using your white privilege to help fight social injustice and help free people. But if we're talking about keeping musicals within their raw form, let's keep this in mind. If the musical storyline is centered around race and calls for the casting of a specific race, be mindful. And I'm talking about in its raw form. So because of the storyline of Hairspray, I just, unless there's a brick wall like blocking a piece of my mind, I just don't see how you can possibly like alter the characters to where it doesn't talk about segregation within the 60s when it was specifically Black and white. That was the issue at hand. So I don't see how it could be multicultural, or you can have an all white cast or an all black cast. And y'all, there are other musicals out there. Like even with my first choir, my first year of teaching, there was one girl, we were talking about how we wanted to do musicals in the future. And she was like, well, let's do Hairspray. Keep in mind, only a handful of white people went to the school and everybody else was black. So I looked at her and I said, baby, I don't think we're going to be able to do Hairspray. And she looked at me and was like, well, we can make an all black one and we can make it hair grease. And I'm just like, that's not how any of this works. You cannot take Hairspray and make hair grease. It's just not going to happen. Now, there are ways around it. And if I was thinking with my good mind back in 2013, like I would have said, well, what if we did do Hairspray and we went to the school down the street, Orangeburg Preparatory, and see if they wanted to do it along with us, and we do a joint performance and do Hairspray. So that's a way to look at it. Third point, if important characters within a production are supposed to be Black, especially if the role centers around the character's Blackness, be mindful. Same school that I attended, when they did the productions every other year. So they did Big River, and then 2 years later, they did The Wiz. That's every Black person's dream, to be a part of The Wiz, honey, especially back in 2008, showing my age. So the Wiz was a big deal for us, and we had enough Black people. We had more than enough Black people to execute The Wiz. Do you know that they turned around and made Tin Man white, and then they turned around and had a white Dorothy? They had a Black one too, but the Black one would perform for schools during the day, and the white Dorothy would perform for the parents and the community at night. Think about the message you're sending to your kids. Like, if the role is Black, and if the leads are Black or persons of color, and you have the students to do it, don't slap them in the face like that. Give them those roles. Let's just be mindful of the message that you're sending out to these kids. Cause like that was now 10 years ago, and I still think about that. That's not cool. Last but not least, I said I don't like to tell people don't do things, but don't do blackface, y'all. Don't. And blackface is more than you it's more than you putting on the paint. It's your hair and the way you make your face up, and it's the whole nine. Like, I remember Orange is the New Black had a scene where the little Black girl was going into the auditorium, and she ran into a rehearsal of school doing Dreamgirls, and they had these girls straight up in afros, and they didn't have blackface but afros. I'm like, your hair don't do that. Stop that. Y'all can pull off these productions without doing blackface. Y'all most certainly can. Overall, like, I when I was making those points, I was talking about the musical within itself in raw form, but everybody's situation is different. So just, and like every case is different. Like, I had a conversation with a really good, my best friend. She was in my wedding. She definitely one of my best friends. But she was talking about how her school, which was all Black, they did Othello. Like, and I'm pretty sure there are other schools who have like had to alter it based on the demographics of their population. But teachers, y'all know right from wrong. So be creative. Like, if you can't take the story in its raw form and it's going to be offensive, like, switch up some things. Like, maybe you have to cut out a few songs, or maybe you have to like alter lines here and there, but use the good sense that God gave you. Be empathetic. Think about it. If this was you and this was your culture being portrayed, would you be appreciative of it? And like I just said, just use the good sense your creator gave you. Just use your good sense. Y'all know right from wrong. We are too grown for y'all to not know better. And last but not least, teach. When I talked about my homegirl who had the all black cast of Othello, they knew the historical context behind the play. They knew what it was about. They knew that it was supposed to be all white people and then one black person. But they didn't have the demographics, but they still wanted to do the play. And they respected, they understood what the play was about. They did the research and they paid honor where honor was due. Like, just make sure teachers, y'all are teaching. Don't just send your babies out there clueless and don't know any historical context. Okay? Speaking of which, blackface minstrelsy. So one, blackface has been around since Shakespearean days with Othello and a couple other things. Blackface minstrelsy began, or yeah, blackface minstrelsy began in the United States in the 1830s. Blackface is the comedy of exaggerated and demeaning stereotypes of Black people still sung, and they're still sung within the choral classroom. And I'm trying to figure out why. Why are we even debating this? Like, you're talking about songs that came from white people's perception of Black people and then making fun of us. Why is this even a topic? Why is this even a debate? So here's my thing. Minstrel shows, they produce several characters, including this character that you see in front of us, Jumping Jim Crow. Jumping Jim Crow from, I don't want to say this, y'all know what the Jim Crow laws were about. They were local and state laws within the South that basically promoted segregation and racial injustice and hatred and all of the above. And not only segregation in the in public places, but it also produced this segregation within our school systems. You see the difference between the white and the Black classes. Y'all should be able to see that. So here's my thing. So why keep songs like Johnny on the Woodpile and Jimmy Crack Corn, Ching-a-ring-a-ring, Ching-Chaw, Campground Races, Oh Susanna, and it came from blackface. It came from basically making Black people feel like they're less than and making white people feel like it's okay for Black people to feel like, making fun of our features. So you're really gonna like keep these songs that came from that history, like make it make sense. And people will hard down argue with me. These songs are part of our tradition and it is a staple within our community or within our music classroom. Y'all gotta come stronger than that. Y'all have winter concerts. I know right down the road from me, Rutherford County, from what I've been told, they can't have any kind of music that alludes to Christmas, Santa, Christianity, nothing. They got to do straight up winter songs. That's it. So then they got to go dig on J.W. Pepper and GIA to try to figure out, okay, what am I going to have my kids sing? They do that year in and year out. So you mean to tell me that, and I know they're not the only district that has to do that. So you mean to tell me that y'all can search, dig, and come up with songs that don't offend us religiously, that don't allude to Santa Claus, that basically is straight up winter, but you can't take songs that come from a racist history out of your, because you struggle with keeping this tradition going and it's a staple within a music classroom, and you mean to look me in my face and tell me that you as a musician aren't creative enough to go and create your own songs for your kids to learn these concepts, or you as a musician are that lazy to go find some of the songs? Next point. Another argument that I keep hearing, kids are too young to care and they just want to sing. Y'all are killing me with this one. Y'all are really killing me with this one. I remember my teacher teaching us ching-a-ring-a-ring ching-chaw. I remember it. She had hella Black kids in her class. And I thought I just learned that ching-a-ring-a-ring ching-chaw was a minstrel song. And like this teacher that I put up on a pedestal, I looked at her, I'm like, yo, that's pretty jacked up. I don't know if she knew it was a minstrel song, but that's why you need to research these songs before you just go and have your baby sing them. Like, don't sit here and say the kids are too young. They remember things. Kids are not stupid. And you feel that it's okay to just hear how this sounds. I'm going to let my kids sing this song because they don't know about the historical context, even if it does hurt their feelings or it did pretty much demean them or made them feel belittled and make fun of their features. Do you know how fucked up that sounds? And if I'm a parent, if Carmen Elevon Fripp ever comes home and says, Mama, we learned Johnny on the Woodpile today. Here's how I'm pulling up to the music classroom, not even a principal. I'm going to pass, collect 200, and go straight to the music classroom. It's like, let's have a conversation. And once again, you got to be empathetic, because if we were to change for those of you who don't know, Johnny on the Woodpile, the original lyrics are niggers on the woodpile. So if we would turn around and say Karen on the woodpile, because I know white people are now up in arms about the use of Karen. And then we looked up the real lyrics and it was to say crackers on the woodpile, y'all would feel some type of way. And y'all wouldn't want y'all's kids learning that song. Yes, I came to ruffle feathers and shake rooms today because I got time, not a whole lot. So I need to speed this up. So anyways, the moral is music is supposed to heal and bring unity, not discriminate and divide. So take those minstrel songs out your classroom. There's no need for them. So last but not least, going on to solidarity. So my definition of solidarity within the choral classroom: when a director allows their students to be who they are, to be their authentic selves, love on them regardless, and dare in their soul to say anything to them. That's my definition of solidarity within choral classroom. So my point is, make solidarity mandatory. It's not an option, it's mandatory here. Y'all gonna learn how to love on each other up in this classroom. There are 10 different ways you can do that with your syllabus. This is something I had to check myself on, because I came from these predominantly white institutions where they made it a point where your hair had to be of a natural color. You couldn't wear certain makeup, you couldn't look a certain way, you couldn't have piercings. Do you know that a lot of these things that y'all, like hair, why do I care about the color of this child's hair? Does she have on her pearls? Does she have on her black dress? Does she have on the character shoes? Do you know your parts? Then get up there and sing. That's all I care about. Like, you let these kids, and this is not just Black kids. I know white kids who go and dye their hair all kind of crazy colors, and y'all won't let them go up on there because it just so happens to be their birthday week and they really wanted to do something different. So they dye their hair, and the concert just so happens to be this week. So they go up there and they're trying to sing, but you won't let them because they got blue hair when they've spent hours rehearsing that music. Y'all crazy. And you crazy to think that somebody's really going to be in the audience like, oh my gosh, they sound beautiful, but her blue hair is so distracting. They need help, not the child who dyed their hair. If you can't focus on the music because someone's hair is blue, they got a bigger issue. Let these kids be themselves. If you have it in your syllabus to, like, professional is one thing, but them dyeing their hair, it's not that big of a deal, y'all. Let these kids be great. They're kids. 2, recruit, period. A lot of people have asked me, how do I go about recruiting Black kids? Stop worrying about recruiting Black kids, just recruit. Just recruit. Do you have a diverse program to where Black kids or Hispanic kids or students of color don't feel like y'all just do white people music? Worry about yourselves first. Like, what's really going on? Recruit all around. It's just like, and make sure that you have your stuff in place. Are you having bondings to where the kids want to be in choir? Like, what incentives do you have for them? Do they go on trips? Like, why should they join choir? The reason why I joined choir, this little Black girl here, is because my choir went to Disney World every other year. And they went to Carowinds every other year. So every year they took a big trip. That's why I wanted to join. Don't focus on just recruiting Black kids. And if you're really concerned with diversifying your choir, you need to ask yourself why. Ask yourself why. Am I doing it because I feel like I'm going to get a certain sound? If that's the case, you need to check yourself, because every Black person, every Hispanic person, every Asian person, everybody sounds different. Now, if your why is to simply have the kids look like the school population, then that's a different story. You need to go to these lunch tables. Hey, join choir, join choir, join choir, try it out. Recruit, period. And once the kids start bringing in their friends, because you don't know who their friends are. And once they start bringing in their friends and word of mouth, and you have these kids go out and talk about the choir and how great it is, the diversity will come. Look at your seating arrangement. Dr. Jeffrey Redding. I talk about him a lot, but he's the reason why I'm here today. And little Black girl like me saw him walk in the room, my mouth hit the floor, because he was the first music educator that I ever saw that was Black. In that moment, I knew I wanted to do exactly what he was doing. But talking about ruffling feathers and shaking rooms, he came in, he said, hey, I'm Mr. Jeffrey Redding. Here's what I need. 1, I don't want you sitting by any of your friends. 2, I don't want any Black kids sitting by each other. I said, oh my gosh. I was not ready. I was like, say what now? These seating arrangements hold a lot more weight than you think. When you see clusters of Black kids and clusters of white kids and clusters of Asian kids and Hispanic kids, like, you need to break that up. We're going to learn how to love on each other. We're going to break this racial tension in here, because we're going to learn how to see past the color of somebody's skin and really look into their soul and see what's going on and see how to love them regardless. Yes, culture makes us different, but we have so many different uniquenesses that make us just alike. So switch up the seating arrangements. Have bondings and forge relationships amongst students outside the classroom as well. I do bondings every semester or every quarter, where my kids just come after school and they just chill. We go out, we eat dinner, we take trips, facilitate those conversations with kids, like really forcing them to get to know each other. Provide ways that allow everyone the opportunity to participate. When you go on these trips, make sure that, and you never know anybody's financial situation, make sure that you're allowing these kids to participate, especially if you know they got financial issues. Like, don't just leave them high and dry. I have one specific student, he worked his tail off. He didn't have a lot of financial support and whatnot, but we made sure that he went on every trip because he fundraised harder than anybody in that classroom. Like, he was amazing. Like, make sure you have ways for kids to be able to participate within your classroom. Be mindful of the opportunities that you take away because of behavior. This is a lesson that I struggle with all the time, because I caught myself this year where the kid was basically acting up in my class, but I sat him down from participating in choral festival. And it didn't hit me until this week when I was last week when I was having conversations with some other choral directors, and we were talking about it. And I was like, man, I missed the teachable moment. I should have let the kid go but not perform, because that could have been life-changing. You don't know what's going on at home unless you like really sit down and talk to them, or like really dig deep. That's why you got to build these relationships with kids for yourself. But I guarantee that if I were to allow that student to go on a trip, instead of saying, you know what, you just stay here like I did, and was expecting kids word of mouth to talk about how great it was, like, that could have been life-changing for that person. And I've especially experienced this, and I'm talking about my Black lives, my Black boys. I've had students who had some of the worst behavior issues, but for some odd reason in my classroom, specifically some of my Black boys, they flourished. They may not have been the stereotypical Black athlete, or they may have been, they were smart, but they just didn't really care for school. But they were successful in my class. They felt intelligent, they felt love. And if I gave up on them when they were going through that time period, um, where their behaviors may have been off, they wouldn't been able to do half the stuff that they were able to accomplish. 7, think about the people, performers, and educators that you let into your classroom. One thing that I talked about in a recent seminar was that my school, they did a great job of bringing in people within the classroom, bringing in choirs, bringing in colleges, but not once did they bring a historically Black college to perform. So I didn't know the amount of greatness within these Black colleges. Thankfully, my teacher at least brought in Dr. Jeffrey Redding so I could see that representation, but really diversify the people that you bring in. Bring in women clinicians, bring in Black clinicians, Hispanic clinicians, bring them all in. Really diversify and think about the people that you let into your classroom. 8, I've said this already, build relationships with your students and your parents. Build those relationships, get to know your kids, get to know their parents, talk to them about what they're going through, because that's how you're going to break down some of these barriers. And that's how these parents are going to know that you really, really care about their student, regardless of their racial background. Build those relationships. I cannot stress that enough. That, and the amount of support that you will get because they know that you care about these kids and you want them to excel. Support and build those relationships with not only the students, but their parents as well. Check your bias at the door. I need you to imagine this real quick, and I'm gonna go through as quickly as possible because I can see I'm over time. You got 2 students. Student A comes from a long line of entrepreneurs. Her parents are also like very important people within school districts. Um, she has a beautiful voice and has since the moment she walked into your classroom. Entering her senior year, she prepared this piece, Je veux vivre, and auditioned for prestigious colleges. And she's gone on to be successful. Student B, they were a disciplinary issue within the classroom. But for some odd reason, when they got to your classroom, they straightened up. It took a minute, but they straightened up. And, you know, they struggled, but once they found their voice, the behavior issues started to go down. But even though this student was struggling or may have been successful in the classroom, home life wasn't the greatest. Didn't really get a whole lot of support financially or emotionally, or just being there. Parents were rarely at winter, spring concerts, none of that. Which student is Black and which student is white? If you said that student A was white automatically, you got some work to do, baby. These are both my former students and they're both Black. Student A, she comes from a long line of entrepreneurs. Her mom and dad both work for different school districts. She studied classically with me, but she also studied contemporary commercial music as well. So she double majored, or she auditioned for the classical side and the commercial side, and she's now at Berkeley University or Berkeley School of Music. Second student is also Black. They may have had some disciplinary issues within my class at the beginning, but the same young man went on to be in all-state choir. They went on to be in national choir. He started the gospel group at my school. He's an amazing director. You need to check your bias at the door and check your belief systems, because there's no way that you can pour into these kids and promote solidarity if you're low-key racist or you're low-key prejudiced, because Black teachers, the same biases that white people may have towards Black kids, I'm here to ruffle feathers, we may have that too towards white kids. We need to make sure that we're loving on them just as much as our Black babies or any baby that walks in the door, because you can't control who comes in your classroom. But have that respect, let them be themselves, love on them regardless, and dare in their soul to say anything to them. Check your bias at the door. Last but not least, understand you can't just teach. Here's what I mean by that. A lot of you may not know this, but the reason why I ended up being able to speak and have these platforms now is because of this letter to my white colleagues that I wrote. And a couple of people, like a lot of people received it, but a couple of people were like, I just want to sing music. I just want to teach music. You can't just teach music. I just find it funny how we can go and advocate for our music programs to these school board districts, and we can advocate for them in front of our principals, and we say, you know, music is everything. Music is more than just music. It teaches math and science and history and literature. But it's like, as soon as we're saying, you know, what about our music? Teach our music, like make sure the kids are learning it. Like, don't do this, don't do that. It hurts our feelings. It demeans us, it belittles us, blah, blah, blah. I just want to teach music. Let me tell you something. Black music, and I'm just talking about Black class right now. People of color, I got you. But black music is math. Just because you struggle to notate it on paper doesn't mean that it's not math. And just because you may struggle to count or clap on 2 and 4, and you for some odd reason feel the need to continue on 1 and 3, doesn't mean it's not math. Music is history. There's so much history behind it, and beyond slaves. We were kings and queens when we were stolen and brought here. So much history behind our music, so much joy, so much pain, so much that our music can mend relationships and make you finally break up with that guy you ain't had no business doing or dealing with. Like, our music has so much history behind it, so much history that, you know, it's it's just so much history behind it, and it's so beautiful, and it causes people to have to reflect. I think that's a lot of the reason why white people don't like talking about Black history, because a lot of it, y'all gonna have to do reflection. Y'all gonna have to do the work. Music is literature, whether it's William Grant Steele or Nathaniel Dett or Tupac being set to choral music by Brandon Spencer, or Tupac in his rawest form. It's literature, it's poetry, it's beautiful. Our sound is science, it defies gravity. It our sound starts revolutions. It, like I said, men's relationships, makes you want to break up with that person you had no business being with. Our sound is so beautiful and defies gravity, is so intriguing, and it's so much to the point that white people at times want to sound like us, or they want our sound. So they take our music and just don't give us a dime and don't want to pay us. That's the sound of Blackness for you. But you know, the crazy thing is, like, everybody is beautiful. Every single person is beautiful. And whether you're white, Black, Hispanic, Asian, Indian, whatever your race is, we're all beautiful. My beautiful sister, Maria Ellis, she put it so beautifully, and I can't even replicate it. So I'm just going to pay homage and say it just the way she said it. We're just all like a bag of Skittles, y'all. Each Skittle has its different flavors, and that's what we bring to the table. And it's so beautiful. And it's just, I, I wish we can learn to love our differences, and like just respect one another. Just respect one another. That's all there is to it. So in wrapping up, as you can see, I've had some protest signs throughout this, but here are some protest signs that stood out to me. Nothing can be done and can be changed until it is faced. We have to have this conversation, y'all. And that's why I'm here, because we need to have this conversation. We can't just keep sweeping this under the rug. It's going to make people uncomfortable. It's going to ruffle feathers. It's going to shake rooms. But you know, growth is an uncomfortable process. I need to be able to tell my children I did not stay silent. That's why I fight. I can't look my daughter in the eyes 10, 20 years from now and talk to her about all of the prejudice and racism within the world of music. And she's like, well, why didn't you do anything about it? And I can't do that. That's why I do what I do. So I refuse to remain silent. And y'all going to be hearing more from me. Denial is not a policy. And where there's smoke, there's fire. There's a whole lot of smoke here. There's a whole lot of fire because there's been so much denial and people saying things like, I just want to teach music. You can't just teach music. You have a responsibility. And if you feel that you just want to teach music and you don't want that responsibility and you don't see why saying Black Lives Matter is important, or you have those biases. If you automatically thought that student A was the white student and student B was the Black student, you either need to work on yourself and really dig deep and figure out where this is coming from, either that or you need to stay out the classroom. Stay out the classroom because you can't control who walks in that door. All colors are beautiful, just like the Skittles in the bag. Every single person's beautiful. All music is beautiful. I love me some good old Renaissance music with the clear, crisp tone, and then you have those crisp consonants and the rounded vowels for that razzle dazzle. I love me some Renaissance music. Love it all. I love hearing Indian classical music. Like, y'all think Black people can riff and run out this world? Indian people on another spectrum. That all this music is so beautiful. Asian culture, Tibetan singing bowls are just beautiful. All of us are truly beautiful. Protect your Black lives. Y'all see what we're going through. Y'all see it on the news. You see it on social media. Don't let your classroom be the one place where Black people can come to and you have these microaggressions passing through these kids. Let this place be a safe haven for all of your kids. Black, white, they go through so much at home. They don't deserve this in the classroom where they finally find something that they're passionate about. Protect these Black lives, protect these Hispanic lives, protect these white lives, protect all of the lives within your classroom. And last but not least, say their names. Here are the names I'm talking about. Hall Johnson, William Grant Steele, Florence Price, H.T. Burleigh, Jester Harrison, Scott Joplin, Jesse Norman, Denise Graves, Grace Bumbry, Kathleen Battle, Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, Queen Latifah, Tupac, Kendrick, J. Cole, Babyface, Prince, Brandy, Whitney Houston, Layla Hathaway, and the list can go on and on and on. A lot of these people are still alive, so I know you're confused. What I'm saying is within the choral classroom, within music education, keep these names alive and well. These are Black names, Black composers, Black musicians, Black opera singers, Black rappers, Black, teach your baby, let their music live on within your classroom. These kids deserve to know it all and their history and the amount of greatness that they contribute to everything that we've done here. We deserve to have a platform. We deserve to learn our history within your classroom. And until you're able to say these names and sing our music with authenticity and like just make sure Black music matters, Black lives matter, Asian lives matter, Hispanic, make sure everyone in your classroom lives matter through their history, through their music. Make sure that everyone's lives matter, because when you do everything that I've said in this PowerPoint, in this presentation, when you truly allow these kids to be who they are and love on them regardless, and dare anybody to say anything about it, and teach them their history authentically, and teach them that vocal flexibility, and take out things that demean them and possibly hurt their feelings. When you do that, that's when we can say all lives matter. And I have a list of resources for everybody, because I know y'all like a good resource. So I'm probably going to send this to Alexis and just let y'all see where I pulled these resources from. So that's the end of my presentation. I know I went a little over, but I hope y'all enjoyed it. Okay, so tune in weeknights, Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays at at 7 p.m. to watch Keeping the Beat live. And remember to tell your friends about our program. Coming up tomorrow, July 7th, a conversation with Rock and Roll Hall of Famers and rock icons Joan Jett and Kenny Laguna. Y'all, Joan made my childhood because she has a song Bad Reputations that's in Shrek. I don't give a damn about my reputation. Dun, dun, dun. I love that song. It makes me feel happy. Thank you for tuning in tonight, and we hope you'll tune in to Keeping the Beat, hosted by Tennessee Music Education Association. We encourage you to try and acknowledge or respond to as many. Oh, that's for me. Y'all disregard it. Look, if you want to speak with me, the easiest way to do so is on Facebook Messenger. And I typically respond back with videos, just responding to your questions. Like, I love engaging in positive dialogue. Don't come with the shenanigans, but if you would like to engage in further dialogue with me, I am more than happy to do this. We need to keep this conversation going. I want all of us to win. I love you all, and thank you so much for attending this webinar. And I look forward to seeing you all in the future. Take care. Bye.